Hey man, so this video will be an updated beginner guide on Deepwoken. I'll explain a little bit of everything so this doesn't drag for too long, and there will be chapters in the video for everything you may need to find right now and in the future, as well as links to redirect you to stuff I will be mentioning in the video that go into further detail. Before we begin, please subscribe as I would really appreciate reaching 20k. These videos take a long time to make, but yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So before starting your adventure, you'll need to plan out a build. If you can't do one yourself or just want to check out other builds and make them, you may skip to the timestamp on the screen. Build making is super essential and a good skill to know how you will go about figuring out the talents and monsters that fit your playstyle and how to even get those. I'll be using this site for my demonstration and I'll put a link for it down in the description. I highly suggest taking some time to quickly skim through the talents that exist in this game. I'll put a link for that as well, so you know what you should go for. Be sure to meet the requirements, meaning both the amount of points you need and sometimes talents are required to get other ones. You should usually aim going for one or two of the main attributes a higher investment than the other ones to get some good talents in there. If you're going a build that uses both weapon and attunement, it may be a bit tough to fit too much into the main attributes, so think about how many attunements and what weapons you want to use. I'll put a link to both of those so you can see how these play out and also what fits your playstyle best. You will have a limited amount of monsters you're able to take. Combat monsters are obviously ones used to damage your opponent, mobility monsters for mobility, support monsters for buffs and debuffs, and wildcards. You can put any type of mantra I just mentioned. Hover over the monsters if you want to see what they do and choose wisely. Lastly, there's the weapon, the rings that buff your damage, and talents. I don't recommend messing around with this too much as it can be a little bit too much for now. You might have noticed this Shrine of Order down here, and I would just put a link to a short 1-minute video explaining how to do it simply so I don't drag this section for too long. Now I'm gonna show you the rest of the stuff here and what it means. You should know these regardless if you're making a build yourself or not. For the next stuff I'm gonna mention, you may use the wiki link down below if you want the full details on the stuff I'm gonna be mentioning. Race is your aspect in game. It gives you innate stats and a cool little perk. It's all different per race. Murmur is an extra ability that you get later in the game, and there's 3 to choose from currently. Bell, also known as your resonance, is another extra ability that you can get in the end game that you can use to affect others around you as well as yourself. Think of this as an extra mantra. Oath is a set of mantras, passives, and cosmetics you get upon completing a quest. Each one has a different quest and of course different gimmicks. Origins is the place where you basically choose to start your adventure, and outfit is basically a clothing that gives you a certain amount of stats upon crafting it. Down here you may see there's a couple more things to go over. On the left there are some traits and you have a maximum of 12 points total to spread between all of them. Vitality is to increase your max health, Erudition is to increase your max mana, in-game mana is called Ether, Proficiency to increase the damage you do with your weapon, and Song Chant the damage and penetration through armor that you do with your abilities, aka mantras. It is suggested you mostly focus on Vitality, keeping Erudition minimal unless you go for a build that consumes a lot of it, like a Shadowcast based build, and choose one of the two, Proficiency or Song Chant, the one you feel you'll be doing the most damage with, to put the rest of your points on. On the right, we have boons and flaws. I suggest you take Steadfast since it's one of the only buffs you will use at the endgame, and Scrapper to make your life easier when picking talents, more on that later. For flaws, the best ones are obvious since it just decreases your stealth, which isn't a mechanic really used in the game besides avoiding mobs in the depths at low power, and Squeamish since from max power, aka power 20 and on, you will not be using the gripping feature to NPCs but only to players, as you will be able to insta-kill them with the talent Mercy Kill, which is obtained forever for all slots once you defeat your first boss. With that being said, let's move over to the character selection. You can select multiple different cosmetics for your character, and then you can select the weapon you want to start with, your element, which the first time ever selecting will lock you to what you select, and the rest of the elements will be locked until you decide to go unlock them. I have a video on that below on how to unlock every single element. Below this, you get to choose where to put 15 free points. Should be simple enough. Right after are the boons and flaws, and origin, hair, and echoes is basically a point system where the more stuff you've done in your character's lifespan, the more points you will get onto your next characters for different buffs. You may also choose to add difficulties into your run in exchange for a multiplier on those points for your current character. I don't suggest adding any of these if you just want to play the game. This is mostly for challenge runs. So after making your character, you will need to get a hang of your tools for fighting and all these bars that are on your screen. Everything has a meaning, so let's do a quick rundown of everything. You have block with F. Your posture has a limit on how many hits you can take, and if your block breaks, you will take big damage and be stunned. And you also can't spam your block, and especially after an attack, as you block, you will be weakened and some damage will go through. It's called weak block. Parry with pressing F on the right timing. This is by far one of the most, if not the most important mechanic in the game, and is used for both PvP and PvE. Venting with G, which basically pushes your opponent away to cancel combos. This mechanic comes into play when you're put in combat. Do mind, you have a limited amount of vents, and you could get more as you M1 the enemy and land those hits. And also keep in mind the bar indicating how much energy you have to vent goes down as the fight progresses. You can dash with Q and dodging with Q on the right timing. You have your M1 hits, and after 3 hits your 4th will be a flourish hit. Uppercuts, which you can use with Control M1 or M2, whichever one you want. And it uppercuts people in the air. Feinting by pressing right click before your M1 attack goes out, and you can also do this with your mantras. And lastly, your weapon critical. There is a default critical for every single class in the game, and that goes for light, medium, and heavy, as well as the subclasses those main weapon classes have. Some weapons even have their own unique criticals that no other weapon has. And as per usual, I will put a link down below so you can see all the different weapons to choose from. We also gotta explain all the bars and how they affect your gameplay, so let's get right into that. The big red bar is your health. Sometimes it will be tainted yellow, meaning you have 1 life, and then it will become blue when you go to the depths. You get a life back by powering up while in the overworld, or you would have to go to the depths yourself and get your lives back to 2. You can go to the depths by also entering a whirlpool. These are located at random points in the map. If you happen to die during all these lives you get, you will be sent to the Fragments of Self, where you can either pay up or restart. Sometimes this health can be affected by wither. When a part of your HP gets withered, your HP cap will be lowered, and this can go away by sitting at a campfire or ending combat. Another thing that affects your health might be the Hallowed Weapon enchant, which is if you get hit by it from another player, your HP gets temporarily hidden. Below this is your armor that your outfit provides, and only your outfit. This can be repaired by talking to a blacksmith and giving notes, or by having the Thresher Scales Echo Talent and regenerating armor at campfires. More on Echo Talents down below. There's basically talents that you can get, which are called Echo Talents, that are across your slots forever. Right under that is your natural armor, which is provided to you if you get the Exoskeleton talent that requires 40 fortitude, or you can get a weaker version of it with the same color with the Vesperian aspect. And yes, you can stack these. There also happens to be 4 icons here that indicate a few cooldowns. First one is your dash cooldown with Q, second one is your parry or block, third one is your M1 and the critical, and fourth one is your feint. When you get a resonance ability or bell, a 5th one pops up indicating the bell's cooldown. Next up is the mana bar, also known as ether, and below is the tempo bar. Do mind the ether regeneration in combat scales with your tempo amount, so choose when to vent wisely. Alright, now for the bars on the left we have the blood bar. If this hits 0, you're knocked on the ground for a few seconds before losing 1 life. Next to it is thirst. If this goes down below 1 bar, your vision starts to get blurry. And last one is your hunger bar. It caps your health at 90% when healing at a campfire, and are below 2 bars of hunger. Now that I mentioned the status effects and what they do, I want to expand a bit further on how talents and equipment works before going onto the progression of the game. Talent selection is a mechanic that you will stumble upon leveling up. You will get a mix of cards, and depending on the stats you've put points on, talents from those attributes will show up in your hands. Sometimes there may be an option to fold your hand, meaning you will skip selecting this time and you will have an extra hand to select from on your next power-up. What's the purpose of this? Sometimes you may not be meeting the requirements for one or more talents you want for your build, so by basically skipping the hand and getting it later, you're allowed to invest more points and then also get a hand with the talents you want. Every couple of hands, you will also be able to select monsters for your build, with the option to get a random one or roll 2 random talents instead of taking a monster at all. You can still get talents and monsters after you're max level from quests and stuff, and even reroll them in different deep shrines around the game. More on that on my advanced Deepwoken guide down below. Alright, now for equipment, there's 7 different types of it, and that goes from ears, face, torso, heads, arms, legs, and ring equipment. You can equip one of each, and for rings, you may equip up to 4 of them. I suggest going for high HP and or high physical and elemental, as those are the most important stats to look out for in PvP. You will need to be as tanky as possible, since in the late game you may see yourself taking a lot of damage from other players. You can reroll these equipment stats using relics. This will also be on my advanced guide below. So when you start from whatever origin, you will have to follow a routine in order to get stuff done. Before you begin your adventure, I suggest taking notes from this guy right here. This is him in both starting points, and then going over to some training gear, which you will need in order to not come back here as frequently. Go straight to the Erisia island, and here's how to go. I feel the need to mention, if you die at any point on this explanation and go to the depths, visit the timestamp on the screen right now. Once you're here, head over to the cave that's to the left of the gate of the beach and fight the Mudskipper to learn the basics. Make sure to utilize all of your combat mechanics so that when you're comfortable enough, you may then move on to Viper's Jaw, also known as Sharko Cave. Before you do so though, follow my route and defeat the mobs on the castle. And once you do so, pick up the pickaxe if you have 3 nodes to spare and get this lumber axe as well. Now go back to the Mudskipper cave and mine 1 coal, and then you will head over to the Viper's Jaw. You get aggro of 1 Sharko and bring it over here. Start trying to learn its moveset while it's stuck there. Create a campfire by chopping down any tree you may find, and if you're lucky enough to get an umbral obsidian from the Sharko, make sure to craft an umbral flint using the coal and obsidian to make a super long lasting flint to light up your campfires. This will help a lot and make your training a lot easier, so you can fight off the Sharko, and when you get low, you can go heal. Next, when you're about level 13, you need to move on to the Burning Stone Gardens to fight golems, and I will show you exactly how to get there. And now you will farm here until you're around level 16, which means it's about time to go to the next location, Starswept Valley, on the Eastern Luminant. Here's the whole way there from Burningstone Gardens. Also, before going, I suggest you craft a long-lasting glider with 2 Megalodon hides and 2 sticks at any crafting table back at Etris or El Vigils. Farming these threshers here and the job board, which is over here. You will need this door to be open, so here's a quick guide on how to go open it, and just follow me. And this pretty much wraps up your whole progression. I don't want to spoil any of it, but this is basically where you need to go and what you need to do. And now we'll go into a more sped up way to progress in the game. When you start, head over to Erisia, do this quest right here, and then enter the trial 1. This place is really great to train your skills against a lot of the mobs you will see in the early game and even late game as you get the ability to fight weakened versions of them. If you manage to beat this challenge, you will get a head start by finishing 1/4 of your progression within 10 minutes. After this, head over to Starswept Valley. Fight the 3 threshers here constantly until you get a higher level, and again you realistically just spam the jobs from the job board because it really is the fastest way to progress. So if you died a couple of times, you've come over here to the depths, and you will need to make your way to the trial in order to deem yourself worthy of getting your progression back where you were. Wherever you may have spawned, you have two ways of going towards the trial, and that is the two gates on the screen right now. Also, here they are on the map, so you know where to go. If you're from this side, you will need to take up the elevator or just go through this hole right here. I recommend stacking barrels. If you really can't, head over to the other gate, which if it's closed, you'll need to ring 2 bells, and one is located here and the other is located right here. The gate will open up and you will be able to go right in, push the lever to go up, and you will be facing a trial depending on your current power level. In addition, the more times you go to the depths, they will be added to your trial level, meaning if you're power 14 and have went in the depths 5 times, you will be facing the enforcer. Don't worry about these super strong mobs spawning on 15 plus rounds. These 15 plus rounds start counting once you're actually power 20. If you manage to beat the trial, congrats, you will receive 2 lives back and you will be placed somewhere in the overworld depending on what luminant you died on. For the less fortunate, you will have to start over. Fortunately, you can unequip your equipment and pass it down up to 3 pieces of it, or whatever else this pool allows you to pass down, and this can be weapons as well. Then you go over to yourself and talk to it twice in order to wipe and start all over again. If you enjoyed this guide, please drop a sub. It took a really long time to make this, and 1 sub from you would mean a ton to me. Drop a like so more people can see this, and leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll be reading them and answering them as much as I physically can. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, and take care.